So there's this principle in higher ed law called duty of care. It says we're responsible for protecting our students from harm and can be deemed negligent for failure to do so. It's such a bedrock principle that it comes up in nearly every one of my classes, from legal issues in higher ed to student affairs and diversity and justice in education. This talk will expand this principle of duty of care to matters of equity and inclusion, not from a legal standpoint, but from a philosophical one. In my view, by admitting first-gen, low-income, LGBTQ students and students of color, we assume a duty to provide services that meet their unique needs. Yet, we know from campus climate research that we've fallen short in delivering inclusive learning environments, and statistics show that many of these students are lagging academically. By those standards, when it comes to supporting these students, we've breached our duty of care. And now, to make things right, we have a duty to act. There are three central tenets of negligence when a party's been injured: that a duty was owed to the injured party, that the risk of that injury was foreseeable, and that through actions or omissions, a breach of duty contributed to that injury. In this talk, I'll lay out the responsibility that we've assumed by admitting first-gen, low-income, LGBTQ students and students of color. I'll lay out the research that shows both the unique needs of these students and best practices in meeting them. And finally, I'll lay out higher education's broad failure in preventing the negative consequences of those unmet needs, specifically lower retention, graduation rates, and sense of belonging for these students. I'll also share student stories of those institutions whose sense of duty led them to act, like Brown University, which recently opened a first-generation and low-income student center, the first of its kind in both scope and scale. Williams College, which actively recruits and supports DACA recipients and has an associate dean dedicated to meeting their needs. Ohio State, which doubled the number of black males with a 3.0 GPA in the last decade, in part because of a bridge program and leadership institute, but more so by eschewing politics in favor of developing targeted programs that have been proven to work. And of course, I'll talk about my own institution, Boston University, which recently joined the likes of Harvard and Yale in providing full need with no loans to all Pell-eligible students. In just its first year of implementation, this change has led to a 4% increase in low-income students. That's another 130 students, many first generation, who now have access to a BU education. But the question remains, at my institution and yours, after we've admitted these students, are we doing enough to support them? And if we're honest with ourselves, the answer is no. And if we fail just one of these students, then we're in breach, at least in principle, of our duty to care for them. It's well past time we step up, move beyond politics, and do what we know works for these students. Look, it's important that we care for our students, of course it is. But if we're going to meet our obligation to them, we have to do more than care. We also have a duty to act. Thank you.